We were all wrong about who Golden Freddy, the Crying Child, and Cassidy really are, and their roles in the story of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I think I know the truth about them, a truth we've been neglecting for years.
Oh god! What the fuck?
Cassidy, the Golden Freddy Kid, the fifth victim of the 1985 missing children's incident, and the most mysterious soul in the entire FNAF franchise. He's been a core character to the Five Nights at Freddy's story for years now, and definitely one of the most mysterious, and I think I've cracked the code to who she really is, and the secret to it lies in the gift that keeps on giving, the Survival Logbook. While I was looking for the original quadrilogy of games and this book, I found a huge interconnected series of clues that might lead to the answers we need about Cassidy and Crying Child's roles in the FNAF story, why Golden Freddy is the way he is, and how we've been wrong about one of the biggest plot points in the lore for years. Seriously, some of these finds are huge, and I can't wait to show you what it is that I actually found, as I'm pretty confident this might change our idea of the original story forever. I didn't just put solved in the title for no reason, because I feel like I'm onto something. So remember to subscribe if you end up enjoying, and remember that it's all just a theory and to be respectful, because today's video will be big. I'm WitheredCircle, and it's time to leave the demon to his demons and put the mystery of Golden Freddy to rest. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows who Cassidy is. She's the fifth kid killed in the murder spree William Afton enacted in June of 1985, and the soul who ended up going into the abandoned Fredbear animatronic who we call Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy obviously first appeared in Five Nights at Freddy's, the original FNAF game, where occasionally you could spot the poster of Freddy in the west hall corner turning into a yellow-colored close-up of said animatronic. When you turned on your camera, you were greeted by a yellow version of Freddy with the sounds of high-pitched laughter and demonic mumbling in the background. If you stared at him too long, Golden Freddy would jump scare you and crash your game. He went on to appear in the rest of the original 4 games in different forms, before slowly fading away from the overarching story with time. Throughout the original games, we never really got an explanation as to why Golden Freddy works the way he does. To this day, we don't really know what his deal is, and we've never figured out what he's trying to accomplish or why he's so different from the other animatronics. Enter the Survival Logbook, a treasure trove of hidden lore, Easter eggs, and Michael Afton event art disguised as a children's activity book. This might be the biggest source of information we get about Cassidy, and this is where I found a major selling point of my theory. I believe the original 4 games in the logbook are where we can find all the answers we need to understand who Golden Freddy and Cassidy really are. But how, and why does this character even matter? Ever since the first game, one big question we had about the MCI was why their deaths happened, and why the 5th victim was set apart from the rest, appearing as a supernatural ghost entity instead of a normal animatronic like the rest. Well, to figure out why, we need to go back to who Golden Freddy originally was and what sets him apart from the rest of the Freddy Fazbear band. We know that Henry, Emily, and William Afton opened Fredbear's Family Diner in the late 1970s, with the 2 main animatronic characters being the eponymous Fredbear and his friend Spring Bonnie. These 2 operated with spring-lock technology, which allowed them to alternate between wearable suits and fully functional animatronics. After the bite of 83, which took the life of William Afton's youngest son, Fredbear's was shut down, and the characters were moved to the newly opened Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where we find out that they were used by performers up until 1985, right before the missing children incident.
Hello? Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now we have 2 specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit. So please pay close attention while learning how to operate these suits, as accidents/injuries/death/irreparable and grotesque maiming can occur. Turning the crank will recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit, providing room to climb inside. Remember to smile, you are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
We find out from the FNAF 1 newspapers that after William Afton took the lives of his victims, 4 of them were stuffed into the band of animatronics that performed at the pizzeria: Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. But there was a 5th victim, Cassidy. She was the one who ended up in the Golden Freddy Springlock suit. Interestingly enough, Golden Freddy is always separate from the rest of the animatronics in all the games he features in, be it in FNAF 1, 2, or even FNAF 3. FNAF 3 is what we need to talk about next. In FNAF 3, we're presented with a series of secret 8-bit minigames that all tie back to one main event, the Happiest Day. In these minigames, obtainable by interacting with the map and the cameras in different ways, you play as different animatronics in separate arcade games such as Mango's Quest, Chica's Party, and BB's Air Adventure. To begin with, what are the secret routes in each of these FNAF 3 minigames, and what do they lead to? Well, while most of the games have a set ending with an exit door at the conclusion of each one, there are multiple spots where you can glitch through walls and perform some very specific actions, sometimes involving other minigames, that allow you to reach a sprite of a crying great child. Across all the minigames, with one being playable each night of FNAF Freeze 5, you rescue 4 kids and give them cake. But here's the really important part. If you click on a specific puppet poster on the FNAF free map during any night, you'll be sent to a new minigame called Happiest Day, where you play as a small version of the puppet and you can walk past a group of children wearing colorful masks before arriving at a table with a crying child at the other end. Once you save all 4 kids in the minigames, they'll appear on the Happiest Day wearing masks of the Freddy Fazbear characters. Walking up to the crying 5th kid will give him a Golden Freddy mask and make a birthday cake appear on the table as the masks fall off the children and the balloons in the minigame room float upwards. Playing all these minigames in this exact order grants us FNAF 3's good ending, where it seems the children's souls are freed. But what do these minigames mean, and why do they matter? Well, since the children are wearing masks of the original 5 Freddy's animatronics from the Missing Children incident, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy, surely that means that these 5 kids are the souls of the victims of William Afton, and that the puppet is helping them move on after years of being in the animatronics, right? Well, it's not so clear. And this is where the Survival Logbook comes in, because this book told us everything we needed to know about the Happiest Day years ago, and we all missed it. In the logbook, we can fill out a bunch of simple activity book-esque quizzes, drawing challenges, puzzles, and more. But if we look closely, we can find a whole narrative hidden inside the book. First off, we find out that it was once owned by Michael Afton, likely during his work weeks at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and Fazbear's Fright. As shown by the drawings detailing the latter location we can find in the book. Even deeper inside, we can find what appears to be a conversation between 2 spirits, one who speaks in faded text barely visible against the pages, and the one who speaks by altering the already existing text of the book. The faded text seems to be guiding the altered one, helping them remember who they are and asking them questions about themselves. For an extremely long time, we all assumed that the faded text was Cassidy, and that the changing text in the book was a crying child from FNAF 4, and that Cassidy is helping him understand who he is. And until recently, I believed this theory too, but I've come to realize that there's a vital piece missing from this puzzle. A piece that I found. One of the prime examples of the communication between faded and altered in this book is the word search on page 58. In it, we see the words "it's me" repeated over and over again in the grids. Although it's a phrase shared between a lot of the animatronics in this franchise, it's always been Golden Freddy's thing. Cassidy's thing, in particular. There is no reason for Crunchyroll to be saying this, because Fredbear only started acting paranormally after the Missing Children incident, as we see from the employee guidance tape I played earlier. Which brings me to my next point. If Crying Child died and possessed Fredbear in 1983, and Cassidy died and possessed Fredbear in 1985, then why is Cassidy guiding the bite victim and not vice versa? Wouldn't Crying Child be more familiar with his surroundings than her? But still, some of the questions Faded asks the alter text are oddly specific, almost as if they're definitely aimed towards the Crying Child. Was your favorite childhood toy a plastic purple telephone, referencing one of the toys from FNAF 4, and does he still talk to you, right next to an image of the Fredbear plush? But at the same time, there's so much more stuff pointing to Cassidy being guided in this book, as I'll cover in a bit. This is where I came to my conclusion. That's right, theorists, I think the Faded text isn't Cassidy, but is instead Charlotte Emily, the soul who possesses the puppet and helps guide the spirits. And the alter text is both Cassidy and Crying Child communicating at the same time for their shared animatronic Golden Freddy and the logbook. I know, it's insane, but hear me out. There's evidence. All of the logbook revolves around discovering Cassidy's name. There's a gravestone with the words "my name" written on it on page 32. This grave and how it's covered with grass is nearly identical to the 5th grave from FNAF 6 Lorekeeper ending, where we see a series of tombstones with the names of the MCI kids, and how the name on that 5th one was obscured too. One of Faded's questions is, "Do you remember your name?" on page 31, and we can use the clues left throughout the book and some of the things scribbled by Mike to get Cassidy's name. Now, to get her name, we insert the coordinates we get in the logbook's pages into a very specific part of the book. Remember which one? That's right, the "it's me" word search I talked about earlier. It's me, Cassidy. Yet, at the same time, those lines asking about the purple telephone and the Fredbear plush connected the Crying Child's past, his favorite toy, and his imaginary best friend, Fredbear. When Charlotte, the Faded text, asks, "Do you remember your name?" she could be asking both Crying Child and Charlotte, leading to their respective answers in the book. My friend Hyperdroid made a really good theory surrounding the name Dave for the Crying Child, as most of you are probably aware, and how it can also be found in this logbook, perfectly mirroring Cassidy's name being found in the same book. References to both Crying Child and Cassidy were enough to convince me this was the case. After all, it fits perfectly with what we know about Golden Freddy. Since we have a good reason to assume there's 2 souls possessing him, their answers are mixed up and scrambled, as the puppet, the protector of the dead kids, is trying to reach out to the spirits through the logbook. You might have your doubts, but here's the nail in the coffin. The piece of evidence that definitively solidifies that the altered text involves both Cassidy and Crying Child. This coupon and Faded's message on page 103. The party was for you. Throughout the logbook, we can find a bunch of different coupons for activities and parties at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, with different discounts, offers, and descriptions of the perks to give guests. On page 33, the page right after Cassidy's "my name" gravestone, we get a text at the top of the page. "Take a bite out of fun on your next birthday." On the rest of the page, we see free coupons for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Chica's Cupcake Chaos, Birthday Ball, and Happiest Day. Wait, Where have we heard that before? That's right, this book is directly connected to FNAF 3 and the Happiest Day minigames we discussed earlier. And this isn't just a simple coincidence or reference either. Notice the perks given upon redeemal of this voucher. Reserved party room, free-tier birthday cake, receive a gift from the puppet, and custom party kit with invitations and hats. All of these line up extremely well with the final Happiest Day minigame from FNAF 3. The party room where the celebration happens is private, closed up. The birthday cake we give the kid at the table has free tiers, just like the rest of the cakes we give throughout these minigames. This cake is given to the child by the puppet, and there's other colorfully clothed kids invited to this event wearing birthday accessories. But what does all this have to do with Cassidy? Well, this is where Charlotte's text comes in. The party was for you. On page 89, Altered responds with, "It was for me." We know Crying Child died at his own birthday party after a prank gone wrong, and I think we have good reason to assume that Cassidy died on her birthday too. Not only is the Happiest Day Freddy Fazbear's Pizza offer meant specifically for birthdays, but the clues we got up until now explain why Cassidy is the receiver of the cake. On June 26, 1985, she had her birthday party destroyed when William Afton took the lives of her and 4 guests attending her Happiest Day. Interestingly enough, if you add the 2 numbers of her death date together, 26 for the day and 6 for the month, you are taken to the page with Cassidy's gravestone. And there's more. On page 98, we're asked to draw a birthday-themed animatronic especially built to deliver birthday cakes, and the animatronic shown right below this text is the puppet, the one who gives Cassidy her birthday cake in both Happiest Day and the illustration on page 31. The logbook is full of references to the Happiest Day, and everything seems to be pointing directly to Cassidy. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie even has a cutscene mentioning that what happened that day in 1985 was a birthday celebration.
Tragedy tonight at a local pizzeria where 5 children who were attending a birthday event suddenly and mysteriously vanished into thin air. Let's head inside for more.
This evidence is huge, together with everything else that we learned through the Survival Logbook. A lot of people seem to think that the 5th kid in the Happiest Day minigames that receives the giant cake from the puppet is the Crying Child, the victim of the bite of 83 and possibly the first child to possess Fredbear. But with this new evidence, I disagree. Because of all this, I think this child is Cassidy. The basic evidence comes down to this party and FNAF 3 itself being about the missing children and innocent victims. The minigames are all about us recovering parts of them and sending them to the Happiest Day as the puppet, who is also involved with their possession of the animatronics. Having Crying Child at this party instead of Cassidy wouldn't make much sense, and what would she be doing anyway? There's also the fact that we don't actually know if Crying Child possesses Fredbear or not. We have reasons to believe that he did, but we never get blatant confirmation that he's in there. Cassidy, however, is a given. Oh, also Crying Child's character definitely didn't exist in Scott's vision of the story at the time of FNAF 3's release, and was only introduced in FNAF 4. The one strong piece of evidence for the FNAF 4 Crying Child being the Happiest Day receiver is that this whole thing is themed around a birthday party, and he's infamous for dying on his own birthday. However, since we just went over how Cassidy also died on her birthday, this point is essentially nullified. But now with what we've uncovered in the Survival Logbook, everything's starting to fit into place. Both Cassidy and Crying Child died on their birthdays, and Cassidy is given her Happiest Day for a spiritual recreation of her failed birthday party at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, made by Charlotte Emily. Meanwhile, Crying Child was either freed for the events of FNAF World or later on in FNAF 6. And this is where we talk about Cassidy herself, and what really sets her apart from the rest of the missing children. June 26th was her special day, and the way she died caused an immense amount of negative emotional energies to surround the animatronic she ended up possessing, Golden Freddy. This energy is called agony, and this is what fuels the paranormal activity in the animatronics from the very first game. Cassidy, however, has so much of it that she's become this extremely powerful and paranormal agony being bound to the Fredbear suit, and with Crying Child already in it, they're unable to properly communicate. Their responses getting mixed up into incomprehensible gibberish in the logbook Charlotte is using to get to them. My theory that both Golden Freddy spirits are in the logbook speaking through the altered text makes sense to me, because it matches with their weird paranormal powers and their ability to alter their surroundings, and it explains why this is happening through the Survival Logbook in the first place. After all, if Cassidy was helping Crying Child, couldn't she just do this communication inside the Golden Freddy suit? The altered lines that we previously assumed were from the Crying Child actually work as answers for both of them. On page 59, Charlotte asks, "What do you see?" On page 109, Cassidy and Crying Child respond with, "I can't see." Crying Child can't see because his head was crushed after the bite, and Cassidy can't see because of what happened to her body after she was spring-locked.
They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Now, since that's against the rules here at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, they'll probably try to forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Now, that wouldn't be so bad if the suits themselves weren't filled with crossbeams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine how having your head forcibly pressed inside one of those could cause a bit of discomfort and death. The only parts of you that would likely see the light of day again would be your eyeballs and teeth when they pop out the front of the mask. Yeah, they don't tell you these things when you sign up.
It's likely the spirits of the dead kids have some sort of correlation to their corpses, so this damage to the eyes would make them unable to see normally, instead relying on seeing through the eyes of the animatronics. And while Freddy and the gang can do this, Cassidy can't, because she's in a springlock suit with all the parts compressed inside, making it extremely difficult for her to move or even see, just like Crying Child. On page 70, we get Do You Miss Them next to a picture of a crying Foxy. This could mean anyone, even though it's likely directed towards Crying Child because Foxy clearly represents his brother Michael. But still, this could totally be talking to Cassidy. There's more vague general quotes like this that make me pretty certain these questions are being asked to several individuals. This book has a surprising emphasis on the puppet too, with it appearing on quite a few pages. Overall, I think the puppet needing to reach out to the troubled spirits inside Golden Freddy helps explain why we see this communication between the spirits in the logbook and not somewhere else. The reason this is necessary for Cassidy and Crying Child is because they both experienced intense pain on their happiest days, and the puppet, who specialized in birthdays and gifts, has to help them come to terms with their deaths through these messages. You might be wondering what made Cassidy's pain in particular so intense. Well, there's been a theory floating around for a while now that William Afton intentionally springlocked the fifth missing child into Golden Freddy. Basically, the evidence for this comes from Golden Freddy's limpness looking very similar to Spring Bonnie's pose when he's idle, and the twitching he does in the final Ultimate Custom Night cutscene being identical to what Springtrap does in the FNAF 3 trailer, since both of them are springlock suits. Cassidy herself also has a very strong connection to blood and drowning, which are two important aspects of a springlock failure, since the last thing you'll ever feel in this scenario is the liquid building up inside your organs as you drown in your own blood. Not only is there a Tales from the Pizzaplex story literally called Drowning, where the main character encounters a drowned ghost girl from decades ago, but there's other references to it. In the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, we're surrounded entirely by a red lake, and in one of the rare Easter eggs, we see Dreadbear rise out of it. Keep in mind that Dreadbear is a variant of Fredbear, aka Golden Freddy. In FNAF AR, if we reverse some of the ambience that plays around Golden Freddy in this encounter, we can hear the sound of loud metallic clanging and disturbing laughter. Golden Freddy's DLC variant even has weird gurgling sounds. Golden Freddy's animations, the drowned girl, the red lake, and the FNAF AR sounds are pretty strong evidence for this idea, and I feel like this is absolutely intentional. I really like this theory, and even though it's normally used as evidence for Cassidy being the vengeful spirit from Ultimate Custom Night, I think there's a different, much more important conclusion we can draw from this. If Golden Freddy's kid got springlocked, unlike the rest of the children who were simply stuffed, it explains a lot about why he's so different from the others. The way Cassidy died was very different, and much more painful, just like Crying Child. Overall, I think this idea makes a lot of sense. Going off how many connections the logbook has to both Crying Child and Cassidy, I knew I had to tie them both into it in a way that made sense, and not with Cassidy acting as a helpful guiding spirit when she shouldn't even have that role. The evidence for Cassidy being the Happiest Day receiver that can be found in this book is hugely important, and I think solidifies the case for my theory. And with that, I present to you Altered Duo. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this new FNAF theory in the comments below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed, but please remember to be respectful as it's all just a theory. Thanks for watching my insane ramblings, and I'll see you in the next one, where we'll talk about the complete lore of FNAF 3 just in time for its 10th anniversary. Hope to see you there. That'll be all from me. Bye.